Hello, boys and ghouls. Ira Blackstone here with another episode of Behind the Keyboard. Today, my guest is Frederick Pangbourne. He's the author of Hellish Consequences, Dreamer of the Tomb, and The Reflections in the Abyss short story collections. Enjoy.
Frederick, or do you prefer Fred? How should I address you?
Fred. I use Frederick for the writing purposes. Fred's fine.
Okay, cool. All right. Thanks for coming on. It's a pleasure to meet you, man.
Same here.
So, looking at your catalog, you've got what is it? It's four short story collections out.
Yes.
And I mean, most authors I know who write in horror, they kind of do they do short stories, but then they'll, jump to maybe a full-length novel, and that's where they'll stay. And every now and then they will put out another collection.
Yes.
Are you planning to do that, or are you really comfortable in?
Short stories are my cup of tea, so to speak. I have a hard time committing to a novel. To me, that's like Mount Everest. I always say that's a big thing. Short stories, I can knock them out quick, but to commit to a novel where you're working on that thing for like a year, the same story, yeah, that's rough for me. I did recently put out a novella, but there's actually short stories in that also. But that should be out in a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're slowly upping the word count.
You're trying to. It's not easy.
Okay, and I mean, for most authors I know, and I'm the same, I hate short stories because I always want to just keep expanding and adding more and more and more.
Yeah.
What is it about short stories that you just find so easy?
I love novels, don't get me wrong, but I always loved short stories. When I grew up, Stephen King was really big. Clive Barker would have the books of blood that had just come out and everything. That's what I'm used to.
Yep.
And it was like you had a whole story compacted into maybe 10 pages. And a short story usually gives you a shock ending or like a twist ending at the end.
Yep.
And I always like that. You knock it out, I got like 8 more stories in this book to keep going through. So I was always into short stories.
Okay. And I mean, your time in the military, because I know, reading your bio, it makes, it says that you are, you are retired from the military. Yeah. Did that also kind of never served, so correct me if I'm wrong, but that sort of short, sharp, get in, get out without any problems?
Actually, I only did 4 years in the military.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a retired prison guard, corrections officer. So.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I did my 20 there, and I got the hell out of there. That was it for me.
Okay. Not sure if with the other interviews you've done, I don't know if anyone's asked this follow up, but
yeah,
why corrections officer?
Nobody really gets out of high school or says I want to work in a prison. Nobody really says that. Nobody. Usually, you want to become a cop or something else, or some kind of a government agent or something. And when that all doesn't really pan out, and corrections officer presents itself, it's law enforcement. And people usually jump in it.
Yep.
Or use it as a stepping stone. You know what I mean? To get somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm pretty sure you probably have some really good horror stories from that time, don't you?
I have interesting stories. Yes, very interesting stories.
Would you ever take those and do an anthology set in a horror anthology set in a prison?
No, not really. I don't even like watching courtroom shows or prison stuff. It's I don't know. It's just like that part of me. I did it for the retirement and the benefits.
Yep.
And that's it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Because my back in Australia, my uncle, his common law wife, she used to be a corrections officer.
Okay.
Yeah, in one of the toughest prisons in Australia. It was Goulburn Prison, which is basically a prison in the middle of a pine forest in the middle of the Australian countryside.
That's what I usually put them out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and in Australia, in the middle of nowhere, we take it to the extreme. And nice lady, very nice lady. Really like talking to her and all that. It scares the shit out of me. and a couple of the stories she's told me, I've just always stuck in my head about the ingenuity of prison justice.
Yeah, you gotta have a mindset for that. It's not for everybody.
Oh
You gotta
yeah,
have a mindset for that.
oh yeah. And so you've always enjoyed horror,
Always, yes.
okay? And what made you decide to publish your your first collection, which was Reflections in the Abyss?
I I was getting down to the end of my career. I was in a relationship and that fell through. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start doing stuff I want to do now. And I always wanted to, so I purchased a laptop, and I've always had all kind of ideas and everything. And I used to come home from work at night and just start every night for about an hour, a little bit before work, type something up. And I just started pursuing a dream I've always had.
Okay, so you've always wanted to be a writer.
Oh, even in high school, in grade school, always loved like English. When they said, kind of, everybody write a small story, I used to love that.
Okay, so you said it. You're living your dream.
Yeah, something you always, like a bucket list thing. You'd always like to try this or do this.
Yep.
Especially now that I'm retired, I got so much free time. It's a lot better.
Yep. Okay, so you put out Reflections in the Abyss. That came out 2019, and then you do Reflections in the Abyss 2.
When I first did Reflections in a Bit, I never wrote a book or anything before, so I think there are like 8 stories in that. And in my mindset, I'm like, well, Clive Barker put like 8 or 9 stories in his Books of Blood. So, what? But when I saw how thin the book was when it came out, I was like, I felt like I was cheating the readers. You know what I mean? So I was like, I have a bunch of other ideas and some other stories. So I just knocked out, I think, 9 stories within, I don't know, maybe 6 months, maybe. And I put a second one out. This guy felt guilty putting a book so thin out. So I knocked out a second volume.
Okay.
It's much bigger, but
But I like that. I like that. Put out the first book. It's too thin. I feel bad for my readers. Let's put out another one. I like that mentality.
yeah, I felt like I was jipping them.
No, I understand that. I answer that completely. I think everything I've written has gypped the readers. Okay, so you do that, and that's all 2019.
Yes.
Was it June 2019 for Reflections in the Abyss 1, and then December for Reflections in the Abyss 2?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Oh, I'm looking at the Amazon pages. It says
Oh,
so.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yes.
Yeah. I told you. I've got my research. I've got everything sorted. So then, Nightmares of the Damned. Like you look at the cover for Reflections in the Abyss. The cover is really serene yet creepy, and then with Nightmares of the Damned, that's like very much like a Clive Barker kind of style of cover.
That cover, well, the book was thicker. I think there's 19 stories in that book. I can't recall. It's a lot. It's a thick book. But I was reading on Facebook. I get on to different sites, the author sites, and I pop in there, and somebody was asking, how many short stories does one usually put into a book? What's the average?
Yep.
And somebody said 13. Usually it's about 13 what they did. So I always kept that in my mind. All right, 13. So I had a bunch sitting around. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take all them, instead of submitting them to other anthologies, I'm going to pull out together a book. And the cover was done by my brother. My brother's like an underground horror artist.
Okay.
R.F. Pangbourne. And I always told him, when I start, putting books out or stuff, I'm going to use one of your paintings for a cover. And he did something, and I caught my eye, and I set it aside. I said, when the time comes, I'm going to use that, which I did.
Oh, it's a great cover. That it is a great cover. It's very eye catching, and as I said, it does remind me of something like from Clive Barker.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to be Elizabeth Bathory. Is that supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken?
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Looking at it, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, torturing somebody, I believe that's what she's doing.
Yeah, it is a good cover. And then and then earlier this year you do Hellish Consequences.
And I think there's 13 in that. I took that a rule of thumb, that 13,
Yep.
and I put that out.
Yeah, well, the cover for that with it looks like just looks like dirt with a giant eyeball and the hands reaching out from it.
I went out, I searched the internet for an artist, and somebody was recommending Francois Villancourt, I believe his name.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful man, the guy does great work. He's up in Canada, and I saw that, and I saw some things he had available, and I said, I want that one. Can I use that? And he goes, yeah, of course. And I went with that. I thought it was kind of cool. It was different, but he does great artwork.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of my favorite books are from Villancourt, and when like all other authors I know, they post the cover reveal saying he did it. There's that part of me that's just like, oh, you bastards.
He's hard to get. His work is. He doesn't have a lot out there right now available, but the stuff he's done, wow, remarkable.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And how important is it for you when it comes to you're getting the right cover?
It's important. It's important. You don't want to put something out there that looks cartoonish or you're not happy with, pretty much.
Yep.
So I kind of sit back and I don't jump in and grab the first thing. The latest book cover I did for my novella, the artist was it JV Arts, I believe, did it, and they sent me something, and I'm like, no, this is not what I want. So we went back and forth for a while until I got what I finally wanted. But it came out good. It's good.
Okay, and I mean, the name of this show is Behind the Keyboard. So walk us, like, if you don't mind, what's your process like? Coming up with, like, what's your process for writing a story?
I am a big fan of the old 70s horror, the old Hammer flicks, the Anakin, the old stuff. I watch a lot of that, and a lot of the writers, like Robert Bloch, did a lot of stuff. If you notice, Richard Matheson, and the stuff they wrote is brilliant, and that inspires me when I watch the old stuff where they didn't have the special effects back then.
Yep.
So they had to rely actually on the story of the plot. Or sometimes I'll just get ideas out of the blue. I'll be taking a walk somewhere, or something just triggers it. It pops. What if? And then you kind of build it from there. You know what I mean? So I'm always jotting little notes down on paper or putting stuff in the phone. And I got all these ideas, and eventually, when I get the time, I go through them, and whatever catches my eyes, I'm going to work on this and try to do something out of that.
Okay.
And I'll sit down.
Okay. And do you, like, with your short stories, do you kind of have a rough word count for one story, or is it more like just however long it has to be?
However long it takes to tell the story.
Okay. And I can see on your wall there you've got the classic Hemingway quote: "Write drunk, edit sober."
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I've done that a few times.
Have you ever tried the opposite? Edit, write sober, edit drunk.
No, that sounds dangerous.
Trust me, it's very dangerous. I tried it once. Actually, my first trip to Mexico, I did the full Hemingway. My first time in Mexico, I was on vacation and I was writing. So I basically would get up, have a cigar, grab a rum and coke, and that would be the start of my day.
Yeah.
And so I was definitely, and one day I decided, okay, I'm gonna just write completely sober, and then at night I'll get drunk to do the editing in, and the next day I'm just looking at what I did. I'm just no. It's
yeah.
It is. I recommend the exercise. It's fun to do once.
I used to come home at night and write back when I was working still, and I'd have a glass of wine, or if it was my Friday, I'd have like a Jack and Coke or rum and Coke, and I'd get a buzz to the point I was just in the zone, and it was like it was going right from my mind to the fingers. It was flowing like crazy, and I'd sit back and I was like, I took like 3 or 4 pages I knocked out without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's pretty good. And then in the morning, I go back and I correct everything.
Oh yeah. Those truly are words of wisdom.
Yeah, it's like Edgar Allan Poe or something. Crazy.
Oh yeah, but like you look at Hemingway, Poe, those guys both big drinkers, yet they produce some of the some amazing work.
I will admit though, it does knock down that wall of writer's block. When you come to that wall and you're like, I don't know what to think of. I'm totally lost for ideas. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it relaxes you or what it is. And then I can start to like all of a sudden materialize.
Well, they don't call it liquid courage for no reason. And I mean, there is that whiskey called writer's tears. So it makes sense. It really does make sense. Your inhibitions do go. And I mean, for a lot of authors, I don't know if you suffer from this, but they have that internal editor voice when they're writing that makes them want to have everything 100% perfect. And I kind of think that's more what writer's block is. It's not a lack of ideas. It's just the inability to get past actual writing.
Yeah, at a certain point. There's times I'll lay in bed and I'll think of story ideas, or I'll think of a story that's already been published. I'm like, man, I should have did this to the story instead. I should have added this. I'm like, it's too late now. What are you thinking about that for? But always thinking about things.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something like you said you're parts of writers groups on like Facebook and all that, and it does come up every now and then, the whole dealing with writer's block. So for you, when you hit writer's block, is it okay? Have a little snifter of the good stuff and off you go, or do you have like something else that you do?
Sometimes, or I'll sit back and I'll watch. I'm always into the TV, watching TV and everything. I should read more actually. For instance, there was an old series, a black and white series. Boris Karloff hosted it called Thriller back in the day, and William Shatner was in it, and he had big stories. And I'll sit there and I'll start watching that, and again, you're watching short stories pretty much, and I'll see something, and it'll kind of spark something. That little spark will grow up to a bunch of ideas. And then that's when I grab like a napkin or something, a cocktail napkin, and I'm writing ideas down.
No, don't feel bad about the whole thing about, like everyone says you got to read to be a writer. I'm the same as you. I watch movies. I watch TV shows. Yes, I read, but I'm more drawn to that sort of stuff. So, I don't think you specifically need to read to be a writer. I just think you need to take in as much of things as you can.
Yeah, I think reading other people's stuff, I always thought it was, you get a grasp of the different ideas, the different styles in a sense. And I kind of like that. It's like, that's how they're describing this, or that's how they're going about things. Everybody's different, obviously. So it's kind of good seeing how different people work.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think I think for up and coming young authors, I mean, they don't have to be physically young, but the newbies.
Yeah.
I think they do get kind of too caught up on that thing of I've got to read everything I can to be a good writer.
No, I don't. I mean, it helps, but it's not the essentials. It's not like going to make or break you.
Yeah, but a lot of them I think a lot of them have that mindset because Stephen King said so.
Yeah. Big following.
Yeah. Okay, so you said that you prefer Hammer horror and all I totally get that. I'm young. I'm 34 years old, but my mum and dad showed me the Hammer horror stuff. They showed me the Ray Harryhausen movies. They showed me all the classics. Why like that? Let me try that again. Why are you more drawn to that? Because a lot of people I know go for 80s horror, but you're more for
Well, I mean, some 80s. I'm trying to think what came out in the 80s. I mean, 80s has some good stuff. I think you had the Friday the 13th, the Alien movies, and stuff like that. I mean, they are good also. But nowadays, I find myself, I've seen everything dozens of times.
Yep.
I find myself surfing I get on Fire Stick and I'm surfing around for horror flicks, trying to find that hidden gem that I missed somehow. And once in a blue moon, I stumble upon something, either recently made or in the past.
Yep.
Like, where's this thing been? But that's far and in between. But I'm still, I'm still out there looking.
Okay, you should try to find some Australian horror, because that's different to nearly anything else you'll see.
I might have to. I was getting into some Asian horror. They've got some great stuff.
Yep.
But I didn't. I have to look into Australian horror.
Oh, yeah. The one I would recommend is Lake Mungo.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. It's a movie that everyone kind of goes, oh, I've heard of it. I've never actually watched it. And it's one of those movies that you'll sit down and you'll watch it, and it will kind of destroy you a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a depressing movie in a way that other horror movies aren't.
I've seen some movies where I don't know if I say depressed, but like I couldn't take anymore.
Yep.
And I was like, if this keeps going on, I'm turning this off. It's a little too much for me.
But yeah, that happened to me last night. I watched an Irish movie last night, and it's not a horror movie. Here's the funny thing. It's a drama called Calvary. And it's in a small Irish town about, an Irish priest who's basically told you've got 1 week to live, and then a guy who was molested by a priest as a young boy, he's going to shoot him. And this movie is one of the most brutal movies I've ever seen. And it's not a horror movie. It shocked me how hard it was to watch it.
Yeah, some things they hit home for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah.
The movie that got me, I watched Jack Ketchum's The Girl Next Door. I was watching. And I'm like, yo, how much are they going to do to this kid? And then I'm like, if this keeps up, I'm just going to turn this off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It really hit home. I was like, oh, come on.
I've not seen the movie. I've read the book, and the book made me cry. And then I actually, because everyone say, like I think in the book at some point, like in acknowledgements or something, it does say this is based on a true story. And I couldn't believe it was real. And then I looked up the case and I read about the actual case, and knowing that this actually did happen.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I write creature features and cosmic horror. Nothing I could ever come up with would match what we do to each other in real life.
Yeah, those are the real monsters out there.
Oh yeah. We're a fucked up species. Feel free to agree. So, who do you prefer? Like, speaking of, the whole thing about our influences, because the Hammer horror, all that sort of stuff. It's obviously it's influenced you.
Yeah. You
said that you grew up, you were there with, like Stephen King, Clive Barker.
Those are my. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, are those two like your big literary influences?
At the time they were, and then I got late in life. I got into H.P. Lovecraft, and I just fell in love with him.
Yep.
The work he did, and then I started doing people. Robert Bloch did some. Ramsey Campbell. There's a few of them who like touched back into the cosmic horror.
Yep.
I started getting into those. It was kind of like a different thing now, and I love that. That was good.
Okay.
There's just a lot of authors out there, like the old classic ones. I'm sure there's a lot of good ones out right now. I just haven't picked up any of their stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, there is nothing wrong with that, because we all go at our own pace when it comes to discovering things. And I mean, like the Book of Horror Facebook group, that's one where every day it's like, I've read this book, I've read that book, and I'm just sitting there going, where do you have time to do this?
Yeah, you need time to read, man.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. My TBR pile is massive. And it's like, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to read, or do I want to write and do the interviews?
Yeah, it's gotta be rough.
Yeah, but it beats having a job.
Amen to that.
So a question I try to ask everyone is this, and it's a question that I don't have an answer to for myself yet, but what makes horror fun for you to write?
I guess if I had to take a stab in the dark, I'd say because it's not real, it's your own universe. You can do whatever you want in that case. I guess if you're writing like a crime drama or something like that, you got to stay within the laws of physics.
Yeah.
Or certain things. You know what I mean? You can't. But in horror, you can do whatever you want in that aspect. So maybe that's why.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's a good answer.
Yeah. Thanks.
No, it is. It is. And going back to the discussion of the craft, and
Yeah.
I kind of feel a little pretentious and wanky saying the craft, but
No, not at all.
thank you. What's the what would be, what do you think? Like, well, no, let's try this again.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the hardest part of the process for you?
I went in writing.
Well, yeah, like when it comes to, whether it's like, when I say the process, I mean like idea creation, the actual writing, the editing, what part of the whole thing?
Coming up with fresh ideas, I think. I guess I've wrote a good 50 short stories. And my biggest thing is repeating myself and not knowing it. Maybe the same plot, just a little different. I try to stay clear of that. Because after a while, I would imagine you're gonna overlap and not realize that you're writing something you've already written about. So I try to keep it fresh. I try.
Okay. And I mean, I avoid this at all times. I don't try to put autobiographical elements, but I know some authors who, they'll work through personal shit through their books.
Sometimes it's a personal experience, yeah. And like that'll fit. If it fits in, why not?
Yep. Okay, so you have no problem with putting your personal stuff out there?
No, not if it fits. If it fits right, why not? And it's something you've been through. So,
yep, fair enough.
You're gonna, if anyone's gonna describe it, it's gonna be you.
That is true.
Yeah.
Okay, and I mean, like when I first got started, I got started in 2018, and I wrote some extreme horror stuff, like Clive Barker.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wouldn't write about? Like, what would be your?
Not really. I mean, no, I'd write about anything, as long as it fits the story. I'd write about anything.
Okay. So you have no, like, you don't have like a line where you say, I'm not gonna cross this, or like.
No, like some people, they don't like to hear about children getting murdered or rape scenes or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've seen that in different submission guidelines. We don't want this. We don't want cruelty to the animals. We don't want, which is fine. Each their own. But if I'm telling a story and that involves that, it's just a story. That's all it is. It's not like I'm basing it off a real life experience. So I'll put it in there if it fits and it's supposed to be in there. That helps tell the story. Then.
Okay. That's an interesting way of doing it, because I know other authors who kind of like, nah, here's the line, I don't cross it.
That's, to me, you're kind of limiting yourself, and you're kind of editing the big picture. You know what I mean? I guess that's like if you're writing. I'm trying to take an example. You're writing maybe Lord of the Rings, and I'm not going to have anybody get killed or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it tells a story, it has to be in there if you really want to tell the story correctly.
Yeah, it would be the same as writing like, for example, World War II story, or a story set in a prison, and not including all the things that usually you hear about happening in those, like in World War II. Yeah, a lot of people are going to die. You can't get around it. In a prison, you're going to get some really screwed up things.
Yeah. You can't write about World War II or something, not have the Nazis involved or something, and be like, well, it's kind of taboo. But that's what happens.
Yep. Okay, so do you think you would at some point, do you think you would just go ball to the walls, like Jack Ketchum, with that sort of extreme horror?
Sometimes I try to, but I guess I'm so old school. I'm 54, so I'm used to the old stuff again. I mean, I love the extreme stuff if it's done, within taste, but I do it if it fits. If it fits, and I feel the need to get into the graphic details, then I'll do that. But I know some people, that's all they're into.
Yeah.
Is that extreme horror. There's
Oh
nothing
yeah.
wrong with that. Though.
Oh yeah. I mean, something for everyone.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. Exactly.
What was it my grandfather used to say? It takes all sorts to move the world.
True. True.
He was an
It'd be
interesting.
kind of bleak if there wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I had this thing. I talked about this with someone about the whole thing. The whole point of horror is to make people uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like I don't know if you've seen that on certain books that the author will include a trigger warning.
No, I've never seen that.
It's more on it's more in the extreme horror category, but there are some authors who will actively, like on their Amazon description, they'll put trigger warning, and they'll put in this book contains these sort of things.
I guess that's not giving somebody a heads up. I guess.
Yeah, but see, to me, that's like, well, that kind of betrays what horror is. Horror is supposed to be surprising. Horror is supposed to be pushing the limits. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's supposed to scare you.
Yeah.
Giving
Yeah,
you a
you're right.
Hmm?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's the whole purpose behind it.
So, giving a warning about what you're going to read in advance, it, kind of ruins the surprise.
Unless they were told to do that by someone, maybe their publisher, or they
Well,
felt
yeah.
a little uncomfortable about what they were putting out, maybe.
Well, yeah, true. That could be it. That could be it. Well. So.
Yeah, I was going to say it's almost like a form of censorship.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's self-censoring.
Like the music, they used to put the Be Advised, there's adult language song or something like that. Same type of thing, I guess.
Oh yeah, I remember growing up going to the in Australia we used to have a chain called Sanity for it was a big music shop. I remember going in and looking at the CDs, and any that had that parental guidance sticker on it. To me, I was like, that's going to be good. I know that will be good. It's just that. So, in a way, it makes it. It's like yes, it kind of ruins it, but also it's like, ooh, if they're putting a trigger warning, how bad does this get?
Yeah, exactly.
I know what you're thinking. I'm a strange man. I know.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, I am. I'm an author. We're all strange. So when you released, the first one, Reflections in the Abyss.
Yes.
After you released it, how did that change the way you approach your stories or you approach publishing, or did it not change?
It didn't change the writing at all. It was kind of like it opened up everything to writing and the business itself. Because when I got in there, I knew nothing about, you know what I mean?
Yep.
How to go about, or I didn't know anything about the business. So I guess like anything, the more experience you have, the more knowledge you get how the wheels run in the business.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. And I mean, you mentioned a couple times, and I've mentioned it, that you're part of a couple of Facebook groups. Are you part of 20 books to 50K?
I got like a few dozen on it.
Yeah, I guess
I am in the books of horror. That's how we.
Yeah, that's it. And are you part of the books of horror the author side of it?
I think so. I don't even know. There's so many. I try to get on there, or when they put the new posts.
Yep.
Like you said, to see the different books that are out there and stuff like that. Try to stay on top of things.
Yep. Okay. And I mean, some authors will chase the market. Are you, they'll see a trend and they'll actively try to get something out to join that, which great, good for them. Or do you think you'll ever do that? Or are you just going to keep forging your own?
Keep doing my own thing. I have a hard time writing. I know some authors are different. There'll be a submission out for, I don't know, let's say like Lovecraft. Lovecraft stories are looking for. If I don't have any idea, I just can't sit down and all right, I'm going to write a Lovecraftian story within this deadline and get it in.
Yep.
I can't do that. Or if they have flash fiction, I can't tell a story in 100 words. That's just me. I can't.
Yeah, I can't. No.
But so I'm just going to keep doing my thing, and I'll probably 10 years after I'm dead, my books will catch on. But I'm just doing it because I enjoy telling stories. I enjoy writing.
Okay, so what's like, what would be your definition of literary success?
I guess from my point of view, I guess if you've landed like a big publisher
Mhm.
to the point where your books are in all the bookstores, your publishers like, "Yeah, we need you to go on a book signing tour,"
Yep.
something like that. I guess that is when you've made a name for yourself in a sense.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no. This is one of those cases where there is no right or wrong opinion.
Yeah,
Seriously. You know, I've only been doing this since I've been publishing since 2018. I started my doing this show at the beginning of this year. So everyone, I kind of think every opinion is valid except if you're a bigot or an asshole.
yeah.
So,
Well, as long as you enjoy doing it, just you know what I mean. They say, what's the expression? If you work at something you love, it's not a job.
Uh-huh.
So I enjoy this. I'm not looking to get paid a lot of money, or I'm not doing it for success. I'm not doing it to pay my bills, but I enjoy doing it.
Yep.
It's something I enjoy. I love doing. So I'm just going to keep doing it.
That makes perfect sense. And I mean, there's a great quote from Nicolas Cage, of all people. And I used to have it up here next to my wall, but since I'm moving in a couple of weeks, I had to take it down. But basically, this quote says this: "You're not doing it for the money. You're not doing it for the awards. You are doing it for the love of the story you're telling."
True.
And
True.
I kind of just, first time I heard that quote from him, I just went, well, that explains a lot about the movies a lot of the movies he's been in. I'm a big Nick Cage fan, but I kind of went, oh, yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect for me. That's the sort of thing like, yeah, that's great.
Well, if you're a big Cage fan, what did you think of his rendition of "Color Out of Time"?
I loved
Did
it.
you like it?
I loved it. I really loved it. I mean, I write articles for a website, Ghoulish Media, and they said to me, we've got a screener. You want to watch it and write a review? And I just went, gimme. And I ate it up so much.
I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more modern compared to the original story.
Oh, yeah.
It's based on a farm, I believe,
Yes.
out in the middle of the countryside. But I think it's one of the better renditions because there are different renditions they've done of that story.
Yes.
I think Boris Karloff did one back in the day.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Monsters Die, it was called. It was same effect. It was based on his story.
Yep.
But the Nicolas Cage one was the best rendition I've seen so far.
Oh yeah, and for me, that kind of watching him in that, I just went, man, every Lovecraft movie from now on needs to have him in it, even for a cameo. He's just do the Lovecraft Cage cinematic universe.
Yeah, he was good in it. He was real good.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see him take a stab at Herbert West.
Herbert West,
the Reanimator.
Oh.
Because that's a Lovecraft story originally, and I mean,
yeah. Back from Beyond all them.
Yeah. Basically, I reckon Nick Cage could do Herbert West. It'd be a different Herbert West to Jeffrey Combs's character version, but it would be great.
They must have loved Jeffrey Combs because he was in like the 3 or 4 of those movies they used him.
Yeah, well, he's been in all the he did all the Reanimator ones. He did From Beyond, Castle Freak, like basically all the Stuart Gordon ones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So what is it about Lovecraft that you kind of like? Obviously, you're a big fan of Lovecraft. So what is it about his stuff that you kind of go to?
What first turned me on to him was his vocabulary. I mean, he like every other word's an adjective, but his vocabulary, like when I first I've never heard anybody talk like this before or explain things like this. And then just the whole cosmic horror thing, I thought was, the old ones.
Yep.
And there's a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors you don't know about, secret societies and stuff. And it was just great. I just fell in love with him when I started reading all that.
Okay. So gun to your head, favorite Lovecraft story?
Wow. Call from Space was good. I mentioned that. But let me see. Besides that one, Cool Air was good. I don't know if I could pick a favorite one. I'm trying to think of all the stories at the top of my head now.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You can do your top 5 if you wanted to.
Mountains of Madness is great. That's a classic. Um, I'm trying to think of the names of some of them.
You got Whisper in the Dark, Dreams in the
Terror in
Witch,
the
Dreams in the Witch
Dreams in the Witch
House.
House.
Yeah. Thing on the Doorstep.
They're all good. They're all good. I can't really. They're all good.
The two I always go back to, Herbert West Reanimated, because that story, Lovecraft hated that story because he wrote it for the money, but it's one of his darkest in comedy, and it's a great updated version of Frankenstein. And the other one, the Hound's the other one I go to.
I don't remember the Hound.
That's the one about the 2 grave diggers. They're the grave robbers, and they grab a trinket from a grave, and this monstrous this demonic hound starts chasing them. And it's that sort of,
I've read the Hound. I got to think now. I have his collections. A big thick book of his collections. And I used to, when I went on walks, sometimes I go on walks, just get ideas.
Yep.
I'll put the Audible stories, his stories on, and I'll listen to that while I'm walking.
Okay. I've got the I got the complete audiobook the complete H.P. Lovecraft collection audiobook version from the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society.
That sounds good right there.
Yeah, it's really good. They also do this thing called dark theater radio, where they do like the old fashioned radio productions of the Lovecraft stories. So they do a full cast and all that sort of stuff, and it's great.
I got on his a site, Horror Babble, on YouTube.
Yeah.
And Ian Gordon, I think his name is. He reads it, and they do like stuff from the 30s, like old stories. And that's I dig that, man.
Oh yeah.
I go to this,
And it really helps when you get a narrator who understands Lovecraft. That's the big thing, because I've heard some audio readings of Mountains of Madness, and you can tell the person's got no idea.
And that's a long story, so I think that's one of his longest, right? If I'm not.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It is. But a great one. Someone sent it to me. It was Jeffrey Coombs doing a reading of Herbert West.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was from the 80s, and it's great. And if you're a fan of Poe, this is something I kind of want more of. Go onto YouTube and type and look up Nicolas Cage Telltale Heart, and it's Nick Cage doing a live reading of the Telltale Heart.
That's something you don't see every day.
The way he reads it, like some of those lines about you may think I'm mad, all that, the way he does it, you just sit there going, I saw it for the first time I watched it afterwards. I just went, I want just a full audiobook now of Nick Cage reading every Poe story. It was perfect.
I got to look into it.
Oh yeah, it's. I'll send you the link through Messenger. It's good. Yeah. Yeah, it's just the one. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I totally want that. I want to hear more of Cage doing Poe, because he's a massive fan. So I'll send you the link. No worries. So where can the millions of people watching this, where can they find you?
I'm on Amazon. All my books are on Amazon. I don't have a personal site to sell.
Okay.
Or Breaking Rules Publishing is what I'm with right now. You can go to their site or Amazon.
Okay, I'll put the links in the in the description when this goes live.
Thank you,
Fred. Any final words of wisdom you want to impart to us?
No, we touched bases on a lot of movies, books, a lot of things.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you said that you've got a new one coming out in a couple of weeks that's got a novella and some short stories?
Yeah, Dreamers of the Tomb.
That's a very Lovecraftian title right there.
You know what it is now that I think about it. Now that you mention it, I was I had a buddy of mine I was talking to. He watches the old Amicus, the anthologies, Asylum, House of Drip Blood, etc., etc. And he was saying to me, he goes, "Why don't you write a book like that?" And I said, "Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I don't think I've ever read a book where the book was based on short stories." So I had like three and a half stories sitting in my, my vault over here, and I'm going to incorporate them into a bigger story, just like the old Tales from the Crypt, and people get lost, Joan Collins, and the monk, tells them why they're all here.
Yep.
Same kind of concept. So I did that.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, it's something different. I never did that, and it was kind of easy because the stories are already written.
Yep.
So all I did have to do the foundation stories. I would just cut and paste everything in there. But it was kind of fun doing that.
Cool. Okay. And when does that come out?
Hopefully within a couple of weeks.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it covers everything's done. It's just they're going over it right now.
Okay. Yep. All right. Cool. All right. Yeah. This will go live. Probably either the last week of May or the first week of June.
It'll be out before then.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'm definitely gonna. After hearing that description of it, I'm definitely gonna pick up a copy to read.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Fred. Wonderful to have you on. It was a pleasure, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me.
That's all right.
And once again, a very big thank you to Frederick for being on the show today. You can find links to his work in the description below. Thank you very much for watching, and always remember, stay spooky.